If you are following me and you are a hardcore subscriber, and I'm talking about from the very beginning, we're talking 2017, back when I did that first video, 4 minutes long, and it took me the longest time in the world just to be able to speak for 4 minutes. If you have been following me since then, you are not a victim. You are just a person that has gone through something in your life that was uncomfortable, painful, gut-wrenchingly painful probably, but you actually want to change. You actually want to grow because you want the things that you do want in your life that you know you do deserve. A great relationship, to feel confident, to feel healthy within yourself, to really manifest what it is that you want. Great job, business, money, success, all of those things. But unfortunately, we're not going to get any of those things until we actually do some serious work on ourselves. So we're not going to sit here in this video and blame the other person. We're actually going to take a hard look at ourselves and see what are the things that we're doing wrong towards not being able to move on, towards not being able to let go or forgive, or actually even rebuild and set goals and manifest some stuff. We often think of manipulation as something that other people do to us. Someone else is trying to control our thoughts, someone else is trying to control us, but sometimes we can actually do this to ourselves. We are susceptible to manipulation by ourselves, and it's called self-sabotage. Whether it's convincing yourself that you just don't need help, hi, that was me. Ignoring your feeling, avoiding discomfort, all of these things are under the category of you manipulating yourself and sabotaging yourself. These are all the subtle forms of self-manipulation, and this is where you start to get stuck. So in this video, we're gonna talk about how we unconsciously manipulate ourselves, thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and we don't even realize it. The reason why this is so important is because if you don't know this information and aren't consciously aware of it and trying to do something different, well, then you are still being controlled by that person, by all the things that you went through in your life, by how you are programmed, and nothing ever changes. Let's talk about rationalizing our decisions and our choices. This is the most common form of self-manipulation. It's something that a lot of people do. It's probably what you do and you just aren't even aware of it, especially if you're coming out of a really toxic situation. It's when you justify your actions or decisions, even when deep down you know that doing that or thinking that is not in your best interest. I know I shouldn't eat that entire pizza, but I've had a bad day. I'm not happy in this relationship, but it's better than being alone. Rationalizing just keeps us stuck in old patterns, whether it's relationships or even patterns within ourselves that aren't helping us to get to where we want to be. We're just creating an excuse for the behavior rather than doing something different. I think we can say we've all done that. The reason why we do this is because we don't know self-parenting yet. We don't know how to take care of ourselves emotionally and mentally. We're still relying on someone else to tell us that we're enough. We're relying on someone else to give us validation. We're relying on someone else to tell us or force us to go do something out of our comfort zone that we don't want to do. We haven't detached from the inner voice, from the inner child, and become the healthy adult. We're still operating in our feelings, operating in that little child space, operating from that wounded part of ourselves. That's not where we actually get results. That's where we just kind of sit and feel. Next thing, playing the victim. Look, we have all been there, and for a lot of us, rightfully so, you actually were the victim at some point in time. So you can check that box. You can get the validation from me that you were the victim. Here's where the manipulation starts to happen. We adopt the victim mentality for too long. This is where we convince ourselves that we have absolutely no control over our circumstances or even the outcome, and this is where we start to feel powerless, like nothing's gonna ever change. While it's true that life can definitely be very challenging and you absolutely have been hit with a lot of things in your life that are difficult, and probably you've been hit with things that a lot of people have never been hit with before. Seeing yourself as a victim and staying in that space for too long is going to prevent you from actually moving on. You're not going to be able to take responsibility for your own actions, not for that other person, but for your actions and how you show up as the victim. Do you show up as the victim for the rest of your life? Or do you say that this is something that I went through and this is how I'm going to overcome it? Here's the thing with the victim mentality is by staying in that for too long, what you're doing is you're actually avoiding your own shortcomings. This is where no change actually happens, because in order to actually change, you have to be able to say, hey, this is where I messed up, or this is where my faults are, or this is where I did something wrong, or this is what's going on inside of me. You have to take responsibility for all of that. And by you taking responsibility for all of that, that is regardless of what that person did. And most of us don't like to do that. We like to just blame the other person because it keeps us safe as the victim, and then nothing actually has to change. Now, the problem with this is that if nothing ever changes, then you don't actually learn the lesson. You don't get better. You're gonna repeat the same mistakes all over again. This person is just moving on, living their life, because they don't really care about whether or not you overcome or heal or get better. Like, it's completely irrelevant to them. So your life, your decisions, your responsibility. We manipulate ourselves a lot when it comes to our inner self, whether it's minimizing our needs, our feelings, our emotions. This is where self-parenting very much comes into play. If you don't know how to do it yet, I'm gonna link the course down below. Register, take it, start learning, start practicing. What we do is we kind of ignore or just minimize our feelings or our needs altogether, especially when it comes to our needs. Most of us didn't grow up in households where we know how to hone in on our emotions. We know how to feel, we know how to acknowledge, we know how to validate, we know how to detach. That's kind of one thing. But the next thing is actually being human and needing things. We might just convince ourselves that, of course, our feelings aren't valid. Then we judge ourselves and shame ourselves. We might be in fear of even asking for help because, of course, we've been disappointed in the past. So now the program is, the wound is, the defense mechanism is that I'm just going to do everything on my own. So is that the reason why you avoid actually saying, hey, I need help? Or is it just that you're codependent and you're just solely focused on everyone else? I'm fine. I don't need anyone to check on me. It's not a big deal. I can just do it myself. How many times have we said those things? When you ignore your own feelings, emotions, and needs, you're neglecting yourself. So here we go with you're trying to have a really good relationship with yourself. You're trying to be in alignment with yourself. But when your inner self needs something, feels something, and you just ignore it, or you neglect yourself altogether by you not giving it to yourself, which over time is going to lead to things like you feeling resent or possibly burnt out. Or you might even just feel like emotional numbness where you just stop feeling altogether. This is where you begin to manipulate yourself. This is where you begin to sabotage yourself. This is where you're not doing any of the things that you should be doing in order to heal and get better. Most people may not agree with me on this, but the whole point of you being in that relationship was that you were supposed to feel a ton of pain, which I know you did feel, but you were also supposed to learn something. Like that pain was just an awakening for yourself. So if you awaken and you went through all that pain and then nothing changes and you don't change and you're still living the same life, that sucks that you had to go through all that and didn't get anything out of it. The first step in healing, really minimizing yourself in a lot of ways, is through self-parenting. Procrastination is the ultimate form of self-manipulation. It's something that we do unconsciously. It's not something that we're always consciously trying to do, but it allows us to avoid feeling uncomfortable in any way. We don't have to be challenged. We don't have to get out of our comfort zone. We can just put off all of those things altogether. Of course, the story that procrastination tells us is that if we avoid these things, that we'll actually feel uncomfortable. Okay, I can very much see that. But the problem is what happens later on. It actually builds into more problems like stress and anxiety. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not in the mood right now. I'm not ready. I'll do it when I feel more confident. By avoiding setting goals and actually doing those small little tasks to get to where you want to be, you're not practicing self-parenting, you're not getting stronger, you're not building trust and self-worth and confidence within yourself, and you're staying stuck in the same cycle. Again, while you might say, okay, I'm perfectly fine with not being uncomfortable, eventually all of that is gonna lead up to you feeling something even worse. Now you're depressed, now you're anxious all the time, now you're super stressed. These were all things that I was doing too that oftentimes I didn't even realize was a form of self-manipulation. I didn't realize just how bad these things were going to impact me down the road. Over rationalizing feelings and trying to just think your way through this. So now hear me out. I have read so many comments over the years. I have coached so many people. I have talked to you guys. I mean, hell, at the end of the day, I'm human myself and I have felt all the things that you guys have felt as well. When you want validation, like, hey, I just need to know that this person's narcissistic, or I'm trying to understand this so well. Education is one thing, and of course it gives us some form of validation and it helps kind of soothe a part of ourselves. But we can't learn everything and think that it's gonna make our emotions feel better. Unfortunately, you just have to feel. And when we're trying to watch too much stuff or learn too much stuff, and we're not just learning how to parent ourselves through how we feel, then we're getting consumed with the terms and thinking that the terms are going to make us feel better. And while they absolutely do, because they do give you validation, and it does start putting these kind of pieces together where things start to make sense, you're never going to fully make sense out of this because this isn't you. You're not someone with a personality disorder, so you'll never fully understand because you are just not that person. This is where you can't think yourself through actually healing. You also have to just feel. The more you avoid feeling that discomfort of being sad, of being angry, or whether you just judge yourself altogether and just think it is what it is and suppress, you're not going to heal any quicker. If anything, it's going to take you a lifetime to be able to get over this, whether you know it or not. Or it's going to take you a lifetime to be able for you to really see just how much that situation has impacted your life. I shouldn't be upset by that. It's not a big deal. I know I'm hurt, but I need to be strong and move on quickly. That is not the kind of mentality that we need when we're trying to get over something. Again, remember, you need both logic, of course, but you also need emotion. That it's okay that it's 6 years later and you still can get a little teary-eyed every now and then when you think about what you went through in this person and what they did to you. You're human. You're supposed to feel. Of course, we've learned everything about narcissism, and one of the very biggies is that this person will avoid accountability altogether. Unfortunately, there are also subtle ways in which we can do that as well. Doesn't mean we're narcissistic, because of course we have empathy. Things go wrong, we sometimes can just deflect and start blaming everyone else. Of course, this then means that I'm just gonna deflect my own responsibility, my own part in this. I didn't get the promotion, I didn't get the job because that person's unfair. I didn't make it to the gym today because it's just too hard. By not owning our part in that situation, on why we didn't do something. Now remember, we don't shame ourselves for not doing something. We allow ourselves to be human, but we also have to be very consciously aware of what it is that we're thinking, what it is that we're telling ourselves that is keeping us stuck, that is putting the blame on everyone else and not really owning our own selves. Self-manipulation is a part of being human. You're wounded, you're not perfect, you have an ego. Like, you're not gonna live life and do everything right every single time. So if you don't go to the gym because you told yourself it was hard, it's okay. This is all about just being honest with yourself and starting to recognize the patterns inside of you that are not helping you, where you know you need to work on and get better at. When you become aware of your own patterns, you can then consciously start doing something different going forward. This is where change happens. If you're really struggling with this and you want more of a handhold on how to actually do all of this, click the links down below. I actually included all of my coaching programs in there. Book a session today and have a chat with me so I can actually walk you through the step-by-step process of how to do this for yourself. I know you're not a victim. I know you want to feel powerful. I know you want to get this, but it does take time and it does take practice. So let's start today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Click on the notification bell. I know I've heard some things in the comments about it being a little bit harder to find me. I know even on my own personal YouTube feed, a lot of the people that I follow, I don't always see their videos in the feed. So you can always just go in the search bar, put me in. You can obviously binge watch all the videos. There's different playlists. There's so much content out there to help you. And this is not just because you're going through this. This is just key things that we should always be kind of going to just to help us throughout the course of our lives. Mental health is not something that we just solely focus on when we're in a lot of pain. I last night sat in bed right before bed, listened to a little something, then listened to a meditation and went to bed, and nothing crazy is happening in life right now. Knock on wood. But so mental health is not something that you just focus on when times are tough. It's something that if you just do a little bit of it every single day, just a tiny bit, even 5 minutes, it'll help you to avoid problems in your future. Hope you guys are well, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.